save as text macro, and I'll attempt opening it up here, and we'll see how it does here. And I have this thing called convert files to text, and what it does is you sort of just open up a folder. And what I did was I opened up a folder that had all of my emails in it, and what it did was it opened up each folder and converted it to a text file. So I mean, this is a data file that we sell. It's not part of the ones that we kind of give out, but it is something to think about and how you could utilize it. Once I created a text file, so I had all these email files. These are my message files, and I then kind of created a text file of each one of them. That utility that I just showed you made that. I then went over to Active Data. And excuse me, not Active Data, but the textual analytic tool of Active Data. So it didn't show up in this Active Data product that I have. It was more of a separate tool that I got. And it's called Active Data Text Analytics. So I'll open that up. And the reason I show this to you, and it's maybe not showing up on the screen as well, is it'll search through PDF documents, Word documents, text documents. It'll even do Outlook separately, which I didn't do. So I did the text version approach here. And what it'll do is you can, I think, I don't know if this will work here. So I'm not going to run this right now because it'll just take a few seconds, but it'll create a word summary, and when you're done, it's a really nice summary. It'll also do word searching. We talked about that, and does some other extraction, but let me just kind of say the word summary itself, where it'll go through PDF and Word and text documents, kind of saves you a lot of steps, if you got a lot of files from somebody and analyzed them. But now we get to the analysis. This took me about 5 or 10 minutes to put together, but I basically ran my Active Data on my own emails. So I took emails from February, every email that I sent in February, and I took every email I sent in March, and I put it in a folder, and I converted it to text, and I figured out that I had 488,000 words in March, and I had 458,000 words in February. And I analyzed the first letter. So I did a pivot table of the first letter of the February one and of the March one. And, it's really interesting too. I'm sure like the word the is the word the here. And it's almost like frightening to look at the frequencies of these words, because you could see 16,483 items started with the word the. I had 16,486 starting in the word March, in March. So we talk about fingerprints and I don't know if that fingerprint's really going to be there. It's there. It's amazing. So looking at the differentials, and this is just a graph of differential now that I've pulled together my emails for both time frames, summarized it by word and such, notice there's not 1 over 1%. So my differential, I don't believe, my differential of February to March letters, when you look at my emails, are below 1%. They're actually below even 0.5%. And if you really had a trending, like you started using a crazy word, we're going to have the Huggies discount or something, or some crazy named phrase, it should drive that in your emails. Like it would be something that you would see as a fingerprint, because you're so low on deviation to begin with. Any sort of deviation at this point is going to throw you right over the mark. And that's kind of what you want from a testing point of view. So again, in summary, how we got here is we created a lot of text files. I used this textual analytic product, which is free from Information Active, that you can download. And you can start doing your own summaries of words. And I just it literally created this file for me, which I pivot tabled, kind of put it together here. Put it together here and looked at kind of variations. And just as a final note, this was the Wordles of both months. So this was February to March from a Wordle perspective. And I know it's kind of small, but just showing it to you. And it's kind of interesting, the word February, which you may not see there, the word February, which shows up over on the left-hand side here, in relation to the word March. So basically March was so even like a word like February and March that you would expect to show up like March and February, thankfully does show up quite nicely in the data file itself. So, okay, without going. Oh, and just kind of noting, lastly, looking at kind of letters that are on or off. The actual rank of the letters, like ranking the letters 1 through 26, 18 of them were in matched rank. So they were even in order from a letter point of view, and there were only a few that were off. And you can notice here, when they're off, it's like, here it's saying 10, 11, and then this is I and B being that, being like 11 or 10 or whatever. So it's amazing, the fingerprint. I wanted to conclude the session talking about emotive tones and, how you can kind of find personality in other measures. And I found this really interesting in just taking my email example that I had before. But I for the most part, there's a book out there called The Secret Life of Pronouns, which you can kind of see up in the left-hand corner, and the author's name. And there's a great video that I've linked to here that you can get a viewing of, and the author in like 15 minutes explains all these really cool things about language and usage of language. And I have to admit that, after reviewing the book and thinking about it, the way that I speak now and write sometimes is much different. I'm actually like thinking about Luke, and Luke is, oh gosh, I can't even think of the name of it, but it's like the linguistic something word count or something tool. So that's what Luke pronounced as. But it's a software tool, and Luke allows you to kind of analyze data and look for emotive tones and such. And it's very reliable. It's reliable to like 65% of the time, being accurate to finding liars and proving what people said in court and things like that. But what it really kind of plays off of that's really interesting is that it's the function words that are used, the style words. It's not so much the content word, like I am placing it on the table. That phrase right there that you see, the word placing and table are useful, but every other word is a basically it's going to be a pronoun and a style word. If you kind of continued and said, I'm going to at some point place it on the table, it's probably still same thing. You have like a longer sentence, but you're really not saying much more than, probably you're lying more, because you're having much more of a longer explanation for what you're trying to say. So there's a lot to be, said here. I'm not going to spend too much time, going into too much of the theory behind it. The book is great and something to look at. There's an entire chapter on how to catch a liar. But then looking at the actual product, it's $89. Sorry, it's $89.95. And it's something you can download. We'll show you how to do it. There is a free version, though, and this is something where you can go online and just kind of put your text into this Luke online, and the guy even explains to himself, I understand, you may not have money and you need to use this, so that's fine, and you can use that so that you can do this personality analysis. I thought it was really cool that you can actually put your Twitter name in there and get an analysis of yourself. And I don't have a whole lot of tweets that are out there, but if you wanted to put anybody's Twitter handle in there, you can actually analyze their style and whatnot. But I thought it was funny that I got a ranking of 89% on analytic, given my profession and what I do. So I thought that was funny. But a lot of the secret life of pronouns, what it's based on is this word list. And this is something where, again, this is a file you buy when you buy Luke, and it comes, with it. And it explains like all of their function words, and it explains like anger words and swear words and negative emotion words, like sorrow and sorry and miss and fatal and fatigue. And, it's all these like words that you do use in speech, but you don't realize it at times, like what you're saying, anger, sad, etc. And what I thought is, what a wonderful list for keyword searching. I mean, you could almost like look at this list of words and start deciding, in addition to the fraud words that we look for, we want to look for some of these emotion words, because I think it has a potential of finding something. So, in our final minutes here, I wanted to kind of quickly try to attempt showing you Luke. So let me just try to bring this up. Bear with me here. Hopefully you can see that now. It allows you, I'm not going to, what you could do is go into your text, and this is like my email text that we had from before, and I'll highlight like 20 of them, just to keep it simple. And I hit the select button, and then I hit the save button, and it kind of saved these results. And what it does is an analysis that you can copy and paste very quickly into Excel and analyze or do whatever you'd like to after this. And I'm going to show you that as best as I can in the next few seconds here. But it's really nice how it very, very quickly gives you this analysis. It gives you all these stats that we'll talk about. I thought it was kind of funny where the samples, which I don't know if I can, find it quickly enough here, so just bear with me if I can attempt finding this. But they did have a couple of sample, I won't do it, they had a couple of sample speeches, and they had other speeches like from radio talk show hosts and others, and you can kind of get an idea how like a radio talk show host is going to have more anger, negative emotion, swear words, that kind of thing. So it was really interesting to kind of see how in reality how it plays out. But just kind of going into the Liwc results and showing you like, well, how does this help? Like, what does this do? I looked at my February and my March data, right? So I ran Liwc, and I copied and pasted from that sheet that you just were looking at. I copied and pasted it into Excel, and I made an average by just doing the average function at the top of each one of these things. So, depending on I took every email and I kind of said, the word count in this email was 22, and the word count in this one was 115, and, and so on and so forth. And many of them got a lot higher. This one's 1,180 words, for an email. That's a lot. Anyway, and you analyze a lot of this, but in looking at the kind of differences, there's a lot going on here. But what I kind of tried to figure out here was, here's the average that was per all like written text that the professor looked at, and in relation to kind of my data here. And these are emails, so it's different than like a magazine article or a spoken word or whatever. But it is really interesting to see how close you are, and in many ways, like they expected 0.78 of me using like we and you and that kind of thing, and yet my March average was 0.80. Mind you, my February average was 0.55, so it's really low in relation to the average, but it's still well within standard deviation. So it's something where you get this like really interesting analysis here. What I found most interesting, and again, with limited time and trying to show you like this new software product, what I found really interesting is that in looking at the percentages from month over month, you could really see how things aren't that far off. I went from a 1.7% to a 1.12%, 0.55 to 0.8, 0.92 to 1.17. These are not wide variances, that you can look at. And thankfully I don't have a lot of swear words, but there are, and then positive and negative words showing up. Even though what I found interesting, I'm like, ooh, my positive emotion words are going downward, but yet I'm like almost 3 times the average, it seems, when you look at the average. So I'm actually really high, on that. But looking at anger and sad and all these things, they're really close. So if a person is going, like I kind of said before, the fingerprint that you're getting, be it the fingerprint that you're getting, looking month over month, or looking at dictionary terms, or looking at, in this case, at this Liwc product, the dictionary is really, really tight, no matter, which way you do it.